It is Tuesday, January 12th at approximately 7:02 p.m. We would like to thank those of you that have joined us this evening, either in person or remotely. If you would like, I just mentioned about giving public comment, please fill out the form over here on my right. Anyway, we're going to start with a roll call, and this time we'll start with Stephanie.
Stephanie Bryant, Business Administrator.
Gina Hales, Board Member.
Jennifer Partridge, Board Member.
Rebecca Nielsen, Board Member.
Melanie Hall, Board Vice President.
Keith Urchel, Superintendent.
McKay Jensen, Board Member.
Terry McCabe, Board Member.
Nate Bryson, Board Member.
Okay. Doug, I'm trying to remember, you had designated somebody to offer the Pledge of Allegiance? Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes. Will everyone please stand for the pledge? Thank you.
Okay. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Next, we're going to turn the time over to Stephanie Bryant for the oath of office.
Okay, hopefully I'm not too loud, but I'm loud enough to be heard. Okay, good morning, good evening. Wow, that was a Freudian slip. Good morning. Good evening, everybody. We have two newly elected board members. Before the business options can take place in this meeting, we need to have them swear an oath for their public seat. So if Board Member Terry McCabe and Board Member Gina Hales would please stand.
Real quick, she was reelected as well. Does she need to do the oath again?
Yes, you do. Sorry. And Ms. Rebecca Nelson. Thank you. That was an oversight on my part. I'm sorry about that. Okay. If you will please raise your right hand and repeat after me. And let me get to my words. Okay. I do solemnly swear.
I do solemnly swear
That I will support, obey, and defend.
that I will support, obey, and defend
The Constitution of the United States.
the Constitution of the United States
And the Constitution of this state.
and the Constitution of this state,
And that I will discharge the duties of my office with fidelity.
and that I will discharge the duties of my office with fidelity.
Thank you very much. And welcome to the board to the two new members, and congratulations on your reelection, Rebecca. Okay. One of the other things that will occur tonight at our board meeting is we will have a change in our board presidency and our board vice presidency. During the study session, we had a short discussion on nominations. The first nomination for board president was for Melanie Hall. I'll open the floor. If anybody has any different nominations, we can take those now. Okay. Hearing none, the process for this is if there's only one nomination, that person is then elected president of the board. So congratulations, Melanie. You are a new board member president.
Condolences.
And Melanie, I'm going to turn it over to you to finalize the process for the vice president election.
All right. In our study session, it was a nomination for Rebecca Nielsen. Is there any other nominations? Seeing none, Rebecca, you are our new vice president.
Thank you.
Thank you. I look forward to helping lead this amazing team. Next, I'm going to turn it over to our new vice president, Rebecca Nielsen. She's got her opening remarks.
Thank you. I just wanted to take a quick minute to tell you of a really exciting thing that happened to me just about a month ago. I was perusing social media and happened to find my favorite teacher of all time. I hadn't seen or heard from her, well, since I was in her 6th grade class a long time ago. And it was such a great experience to reconnect with her. And when I did, I started remembering all of the wonderful things that I learned from her way back in 6th grade. Lots of life lessons and things that helped shape me, which is probably why she was my favorite teacher. And it was just a really neat thing to reflect on the influence that she had on me and my life and helped shape the person that I am now. So I just wanted to, in my opening remarks tonight, give a tribute to teachers. Teachers are wonderful. Teachers do so many things. Teachers not only teach the basics, the reading, the writing, and the arithmetic, but they sometimes fill the shoes of what parents can't do. They sometimes fill in the shoes of what a social worker might do. They sometimes fill in the shoes of what a psychologist might do. Their roles are so wide and so vast, and they truly do so much. And I just would like to pay tribute to the teachers, especially here in our district, and to those that have helped shape me. I'm just so grateful for the people who are willing to do that job. It's a hard job, it's a tough job, it's a gratifying job, and I'm just generally and just grateful for teachers. And I just wanted to state that publicly as part of my opening remarks. And I'd also like to go ahead and open with a prayer and solicit any help we can get tonight. So, our Father in heaven, we're grateful to be gathered tonight as a school board and as public, and grateful for this opportunity to exercise our rights as a public to be involved in education and to be able to advocate for students and teachers and staff in our district, and to be able to try to do what's right and to be able to try to help where we can. We ask for guidance this evening as we make decisions, and we ask for help and safety and comfort for those in our district that are working during this worldwide pandemic. And we say these things in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Thank you, Rebecca. I say amen to your comments about teachers as well. So thank you. Next, we're going to have our employee recognition, the Provo Way Award, and that will be presented by Jason Cox.
Good evening. I appreciate the opportunity to be able to be here tonight and recognize employees and community members with the Provo Way Award. We have another great group recognized tonight. This is just such a fun thing to do in a year where there hasn't been a lot of fun. So it's great to get out and recognize people who are doing great things for students and for the community. Tonight we're recognizing, and I'm going to ask these people to stand, please, if you're here in the audience. I know some of them had contacted me and said that they had conflicts, but if you're here tonight, please stand. We have Erica Halford, Kat Miner, Shauna Sprunger, Tia Yazi, Hannah Medina, and Miriam Rodriguez, who are receiving the award tonight. We also, so we want to give them a round of applause. Let's give them a round of applause. We shot a video of when we went and surprised them with the award, and so we'll watch the video, but afterward we'd like to offer you, those of you who won tonight, the opportunity to come up and be congratulated by our school board members. So we're going to ask you to start over on this end. Be careful of the cord, but please go along the front and allow our school board members to thank you for the work that you do for our community.
our students too, and we appreciate that. And Ms. Medina is really amazing with technology as well. There are multiple teachers throughout the school who like to come down this hallway to visit Ms. Medina and have her help. I'm not the only recipient of that. So besides the awesome teaching, we love the technology and the ideas and the wisdom that you bring to our classroom. So we love having you in the fourth grade. Thank you. Thank you, Hannah. Ms. Medina.
Bom dia e bem-vindo à Escola Primária Lakeview. Estamos aqui a apresentar o Provo Way Award a Juliana Rocha, uma assistente aqui na escola. Vamos entrar e surpreendê-la.
Anna, I'm Jennifer Partridge from the Board of Education, and from the board I want to thank you and give you this Provo Way Award. We're grateful for all that you do here at Lakeview and hear that you've just really stepped up and been just such a tremendous blessing to Lakeview. So thank you.
I nominated you for this award because I don't know if the kids all know this here, but Juliana covered for a teacher that we were trying to get from Brazil for, how long was it, a month that you were running for her? So she prepared lessons, did everything that we needed, so she was just critical in getting us off to a good start this year. She's always been willing to step up and do whatever we need at the school, so she's just a great asset to us here at Lakeview. So congratulations.
Thank you.
Happy holidays! We are at Sunset View Elementary, and we are here as a celebration committee to honor Tiyazi, who is a teacher. So let's go in and surprise her.
Congratulations. On behalf of the Board of Education, I want to give you this Provo Way Award and thank you for all that you do to make Sunset View a great place to be here for your students, making sure that they just love you and appreciate you, and we're thankful for you.
She's a half-day teacher, and she is always here, extra hours, making sure that all of her students are able to learn and doing things above and beyond to make it fun and accessible to all, online and in class. Thank you. Congratulations.
Good job, Tia.
We are here to give it's the head lunch worker, right? Yes, she's the kitchen manager. She's the kitchen manager here. It's Miriam Rodriguez. And we're here to give her the Provo Way Award, and we're going to walk way down the hall, so you're going to have to put up with us as we walk down the hall and go surprise her.
School board, and on behalf of the entire school board, we want to thank you for all that you do here and all that you've done with COVID. We know that your job is just gotten to do more.
I nominated Miriam because she is a wonderful kitchen manager. She serves these kids here with love every single day. They prepare so many meals. Oftentimes, right now with the situation with COVID, they are just working so hard to make sure that all our kids are fed and they're given a healthy, hot, warm, nutritional meal. And she works every day, whether she feels good or not. She is here, and she runs a great kitchen, a very great team, and she's very deserving of this award.
Thank you so much. But I never can do this without my ladies. So I think they deserve to. My ladies come in. They're wonderful. And I never.
So we'd like to invite those of you that are here tonight to come up and start here on this end with Stephanie and allow our school board members to congratulate you.
Congratulations, and thank you so much for being such an amazing teacher. Congratulations, way to go. Thank you for everything.
Thanks so much.
Thank you.
I agree with Jason Cox. That is probably one of the funnest things we get to do here at board meeting. So I'm glad that we get to look forward to that once a month. All right, moving on. We are going to have a school department report of high school counseling by Nate Warner.
Good evening, Superintendent Rattel and the Provo City Board, School Board. I'm glad that we could be here tonight and share some information with you. So we don't get this opportunity very often. We work under the guidance and leadership of Student Services. Doug Finch has been wonderful to work with, and I appreciate the relationship he has with our school counselors in our district. So thank you, Doug. We have a program in the state of Utah called the Utah College and Career Readiness School Counseling Program Model. And our district is being reviewed actually in about a month by the state of Utah. So we wanted to present some information to you today about what we do as counselors in this school counseling program model. So our mission as school counselors is this. I'll read this if you permit me to. The College and Career Readiness School Counseling Program strives to have every student in the Provo School District graduate from high school with the skills, knowledge, and vision essential for college, career, and life readiness. This counseling model empowers school counselors to place themselves as educational leaders in their school systems and establish a foundation for school improvement. School counselors are partners and collaborators in school improvement and advocates of social justice for all students. And I love that mission statement. We are student advocates, and we do our very best to advocate for students and to help them achieve their goals and desires. And I believe counselors are vital to each school in this district and in education. I believe they play a crucial role to help students become the very best that they can. I firmly believe that, and I believe the counseling center's in many ways the heart of every school. So I appreciate the counselors that are here tonight. We have 7 of our school counselors, and you'll be able to hear from a few of them, but have some great support tonight from some wonderful human beings. This is what we do and how we serve our students. These are our delivery components. So we do, a big bulk of our time is spent called PCCR, Plan for College and Career Readiness. I think you have a little more information in your notes on this, but this is where counselors meet with students individually, with parents in many cases, and in small groups to help students make plans for college and career readiness, on how they're going to graduate from high school and what their college and career goals are. So we spend a lot of time with students building these academic plans. We actually have a electronic CCR in Power School that's awesome. I don't know if other districts in the state have it. None do that I know of, where students can build their 4-year plans and their college and career goals. It's a great feature of Power School. Another thing we do is called collaborative classroom instruction. So we go into classrooms when we can get permission from teachers to teach lessons, things like growth mindset or resiliency or study skills or bullying prevention or stress management. We're there to support students and teach skills and things that the teachers normally don't cover in their curriculum. So it's a great way for counselors to get into classrooms, share some of their guidance and expertise with students and build relationships. Another big part of our delivery components is systemic approach to dropout prevention with social emotional supports. So we work with students that are in crisis in many times, that may be suicidal or depressed or anxious or stressed out. And we have some resources that we can work with students with. We have social workers that aid us quite a bit in this area. We have meetings with our student study teams to talk about individual students and how we can support them and keep students in school, and with the goal to graduate from high school. We run sometimes individual and small groups, counseling groups, to support students with their social and emotional needs. So that's, and there's of course been a big need for that, especially in the last 4 or 5 years. There's been a greater need for social and emotional supports in the schools. We also do systemic program management, which is our professional development, serving on committees and leadership positions in the school, our professional learning communities. So that's just managing our counseling program. Just some quick facts. So right now there are 21 school counselors in Provo School District, 7 through 12. So that's in the 2 middle schools and the 3 high schools. We've seen a dramatic increase in the number of counselors, and one of the things we wanted to do tonight was thank you specifically, the board, the school board, for their support of additional counselors. We've increased probably 6 counselors in the district over the last 3 or 4 years, and we thank you from the bottom of our hearts for that extra support. It makes a huge difference in our schools to have additional counselors and lower that counselor to student ratio. In the Provo School District right now, the counselor to student ratio is 1 to 327, which is below the recommended level of 1 to 350. Thank you, school board. It's very appreciated. I think this next thing, we've seen a dramatic an increase in our graduation rate. That's been a big emphasis, I know, of the school board and Superintendent Rattel and Todd McKee. Our graduation rate in 2020 was 89.3%. State average is 88.2, so we were above the state average. And over the last 5 years, we've seen a significant increase in the graduation rate in the high schools, and that corresponds directly to the increase of additional counselors in the high schools over the last 5 years. Counselors sometimes are a lifesaver for a student. Sometimes they're the last hope that a student has for, the hope to stay in there and graduate. So we really appreciate having those extra counselors. Right now we have 13 of our Provo City School District counselors serve on one of the 6 district multicultural advisory committees. And that's awesome. I salute those counselors that spend that extra time doing that. We also have 18 social workers. 5.5 of those social workers are in the secondary schools, and they provide valuable resources and work hand in hand with the counselors and support many of our students that have social and emotional needs. So we super appreciate the social workers that we have in our district. Many school districts don't have the kind of social worker support that we do in our district, and it makes a big difference with our students. Again, thank you very much, school board. One thing that we started to do about 4 or 5 years ago in the state of Utah was the College Application Week. It's called UCA, and this goes to the heart of what we do as counselors. We're trying to help students graduate from high school with a plan to go and get more education, a plan to get into a certain career or occupation. So UCA has been very successful, and that's where we meet the school counselors working with their career center coordinators, who are awesome as well, work with all of the seniors to help them complete at least one college application. Last year in 2019-20, Provo High School had 330 college applications completed. Timpview High School had 625, and Independence had 24 college applications completed this year during UCA, which is the month of October, Utah College Application Week. So a lot of work goes into that to help our seniors apply to college and apply for FAFSA as well. We also do school counselor data projects every year to support the school improvement plan. These data projects are usually designed to close an achievement gap or to improve student access to a particular program. So counselors are busy. It's stressful. There's a lot of anxiety. Counselors get emails and phone calls and at all times of the day and night sometimes, especially around certain times of the year. But counselors go the extra mile to serve their students. That's one thing I want you to know as a school board, that we have good counselors with good hearts that do their best to help their students. We're going to hear from a few of our counselors. We're going to start with Provo High School and Lisette Blanchard, who led us in that Pledge of Allegiance as well.
Good evening, everyone. I'm excited to be here. I'd like to highlight a couple of things that we're doing at Provo High. We are very blessed to have a high concentration of a Hispanic population, and we have started something that's called Familias Unidas. 4 of our 6 counselors speak Spanish, and so we've created this committee where we've had an amazing turnout, and we've been able to educate our Hispanic population on different things about school and scholarships, FAFSA, and we are really excited to continue with that for the rest of the year. And the parents are really loving it, and we are too. We absolutely love teaching our parents more about the opportunities that their children have. And in my mind, knowledge is power, and this is definitely a population that we are constantly wanting to empower. Another highlight is that because of our 6 counselor that we have, we really have the opportunity this year especially. We all decided that it was really important to have one-on-one individual counseling meetings with 3 of our 4 grades. Our seniors are obviously leaving, so they're not choosing classes for next year, but we do 3 at our school, and Dixon meets with their 8th graders individually as well. So this year, I'm excited to say that everyone transitioning and in high school will have a one-on-one meeting with their counselors, and hopefully the parents show up too. So we kind of keep them on track and try to fix some of the things that they're struggling with now, especially with COVID. So I'm grateful to you guys, honestly, for the extra support that we have. Thank you.
Oh gosh. I thought it was really great. I wanted to echo Nate's thanks, because that's the first thing on my list, is to thank the school board and our superintendents, and especially Doug Finch, because for the extra counselors that we have. When I started at Timpview, we had 4 counselors. Our student to counselor ratio was over 500 apiece. And this year, our student to counselor ratio is 1 to 363. We have 6 full-time counselors and an intern. So it's made a huge difference, and that's what I decided that I would. And again, thanks to all of you for your support and advocacy. That's it's made a lot of things possible in our school. And that's what I was going to do, is just highlight some of the things that we've been able to do additional because of our extra counselors. So we've added some social and emotional support groups. We've done small groups after school, during advisory, and we're just getting ready to start a Zoom social emotional support group. We'll be starting that in February. Counselors visit our EL classrooms, each one of our EL classrooms every term, every quarter, to meet with those students individually, to look at their schedules and make any adjustments and recommend any interventions that might be helpful to them. That's in an effort to try and increase our graduation rate, because that's where we've noticed that our lowest graduation rate is with our EL students at Timpview. We also do a priority registration with our EL students, which is English language learners, and our special education students. So before we go into their classrooms and help them specifically with their teachers to build a schedule that will be specific for their needs for the next year. One of the other things we've been able to start with the help of our PTA, they've been amazing, is a really amazing food pantry. We are in a process also of moving our individual one-on-one meetings from, we do 2 grades. So we've always in the past done 10th and 12th, and because of our 9th grade committee, the school and counselors together made a decision that it would be better to meet with our 9th graders. And so last year, with the extra support, we were able to meet with our 9th, 10th, and our 12th graders. Our 11th graders one-on-one, will meet with them right now, like as they go into their senior year. So we were able to meet with everybody one-on-one in the last year. The other things that we did is just like we started a podcast. I don't know if anybody who goes to TIMFU has been able to listen to it, but we do have an amazing podcast that we put out every month, which is amazing. It's so to provide additional communication and social emotional supports. And Nate also brought out the different committees. We counselors serve on several committees. We serve on school committees and on district committees. So again, I just want to say thanks. TIMFU has been able to just add so many other supports because of our extra counselors and make such a huge difference to our kids. So thank you.
Hi, my name is Sherry Johnson, and I am the part-time counselor at Independence. Our head counselor couldn't be here today. Phil and I, we have seen a need for our students. School isn't their favorite thing. Independence is designed specifically for students who struggle getting the credits in. We noticed that when we were trying to push for college applications, many of our students were struggling with even wanting to go to college. So we developed portfolios for each and every student, and it's called a Career Ready portfolio. It incorporates college readiness, but it also incorporates career readiness. And a lot of our students tend to want to go to MTech, they tend to want to go into trades, they like to work with their hands. So we developed this portfolio, and as a, so every one of our students has one of these portfolios, and and we've designed it so that if they come into their senior year and halfway through, they can still earn that portfolio with this. And so when you see them, hopefully they can walk this year, but when you see them, we have a special medallion we've made that they can earn, and it's a career ready medallion that they can earn because instead they don't earn the cords at Independence, but they can earn this career ready medallion. And it's something that we're pretty proud of. It's part of our data project. And when we introduced this to our seniors, we had a couple of students carry around their checklist portfolio and try to get letters of recommendation and try to research a career. And that was a really awesome thing to see them do that and point it out. I'm going to wear that on with our robe when we walk. So we'd like to thank you for that extra help with the counselors.
Good evening. My name is Karen Glenn, and I'm the lead counselor right now at Dixon Middle School. And I wanted to thank you very much for, again, echoing what Nate said. We were given a third full-time counselor last year, as well as a full-time social worker, and it's making a world of difference for us. I'm just going to highlight some of the effects of that last year and this year, and maybe highlight some of the things we're doing this year to make a difference with the pandemic going on right now. With the additional counselor, we've been able to have more time to run small group counseling sessions, which has made a big difference. We've been able to get out into the classrooms more to teach our lessons. Last year we were able to get out and teach lessons on stress management and some conflict resolution skills. We were able to start our own food pantry as well at Dixon, and our social worker helps us with that. We have the United Way food pantry that comes once a month. We have a lot of students at Dixon who have needs financially, and we've just been able to increase our ability to help families in our community, in our neighborhood. This year with COVID, we feel like we've had to think out of the box of how to help students, both individually and as groups who might be struggling for different reasons. We've noticed one of our achievement gaps is ELL students and special education students. And so for this year, one of the things we did is during phase 2, we invited students who were either ELL students or special education students, and we asked them, we would call them at least a couple of times a week and ask them to come in and work in the library on their off day and get 2 extra days of help from counselors and trackers and other people who were there to help them. And we saw a big increase in their grades and their understanding, and it made a big difference for them with their first quarter grades. And this quarter, now that we're going 4 days a week, we're having students stay after for some extra tutoring help to help compensate for the difficulties they're experiencing right now. We are doing videos for our CCA classes. During the pandemic, we're doing our CCR meetings through Zoom right now, which in some ways has actually allowed us, the parents, more flexibility to be able to meet with us even during their workday, which has actually been an asset for us. We are reaching out to students who are in quarantine and checking on them. We call them and offer assistance. And right now we're in the process of starting a new tardy intervention practice where we've noticed some issues with tardies, and we're taking the students with the most tardies and implementing some PBIS strategies, and the administrators and the counselors are working, each of us are working with three students right now to help those students, and we're hoping that we'll see a trickle-down effect to the rest of the school population. Our Hope Squad is still functioning on Zoom right now, and I think that's everything, but really we do appreciate your guys' support a lot. It's made a big difference for us, so thank you very much.
Hi, I'm Erica Sumner. I'm the lead counselor at Centennial Middle School. And I just echo what everyone else has said. We're super grateful for the support of the school board because we couldn't do the things we do without you. Like Dixon, we have had to take a different approach to a lot of things this school year. And one of the very first things we did as counselors was we did the Intro to Blended Learning on Canvas tutorials so that we could go into, because we're not able to go into the classroom. So all of our career development lessons, all of our plan for college and career readiness meetings, the career guidance lessons that we would normally go into the classroom and teach have all been done on Canvas. One of the things that's been really important that we were highlighting last year is, as we did a systemic needs assessment for our students, teachers, and parents, it came back that our students were really stressed. Last year we had, even in the fall, there was a high rate of students wanting stress management skills, and that's even higher now. So we've done several stress lessons on Canvas and via Zoom. And like Dixon, because we've been able to do our plan for college and career readiness meetings on Zoom, we have had much better parent engagement. With anything that we've sent out, Canvas or like electronic through our social media, it's been translated into Spanish. So parents have been able to, parents that wouldn't normally be able to access it have been able to, and we've been able to reach just a different demographic than we have in the past. And then we are also running our Hope Squad virtually through Zoom. So we truly are grateful for the support that you guys give us as counselors.
Thank you. I just wanted to thank my fellow school counselors for being here. I hope you've been able to see and hear some of the wonderful things that they are doing in their schools, and I hope you found this presentation to be meaningful and informative. So I think we've exceeded our time limit, so we'll end there. I don't know if you had any questions for us at this point.
I do.
Uh-oh, I don't want one from Nate. That'll be a tough one.
Okay, I just want to make a comment. Okay. So I have a daughter, and she's very troublesome. And this was before I was on the school board. Nate somehow knew her needs, reached out to her, reached out to our family, organized her school schedule, organized her future. She respects him far more than me. And so I have seen firsthand the good work that Nate and these counselors are doing. And I also know if you look at our budget, and this is kind of in that one area where people go, why are you spending so much on this stuff that's not teachers and not buildings, and this is what we're buying with that, and I think this is worth the money. So thanks, Nate.
Thank you.
Thank you. This was fantastic. I learned a lot, and I'm grateful to see the changes that have come with having more school counselors. My question is, how do you collaborate with the social workers, and kind of how are your roles In what ways are you the same? In what ways do you have a different?
Well, the schools have a student study team, so there's a meeting every week. We have ours on Tuesday at Timpview. So at that meeting, we have our school administrators and the school counselors and the school social worker or workers. So in that meeting, we talk about individual students and their needs, and we make referrals at times to those social workers and say, this student or that student needs some extra support. Can you meet with that student? Can you make a home visit? Can you call home? And many times we'll just email as well the social worker and say, can you meet with this student? We're worried about this student. Or we might even walk that student up to the social worker's office. At Timpview, we're not in the same office. There's actually a big distance between where they're located and we're located. We have a small office and need a new, bigger counseling center. But anyway, so we try to stay in communication with them, with the students that we are concerned about and feel like they need additional support, especially socially or emotionally.
Thank you.
Thank you for your work, school counselors. It was fantastic to hear everything that's going on in your individual schools, and it sounds like everybody is being very flexible, very patient with us as a board. Thank you for that. My question is, I love the UCA Day. I think that's fantastic. Do we find that some of our lower income students apply to fewer colleges because they don't have the application fee? And are there any like national programs?
Sometimes, that's a really good question. I think some of them might apply to more. They actually during UCA, so it's sort of over a month, but we'll meet with our students. This year it was a lot harder to meet with them individually and in the small groups because of what's been going on. But a lot of the schools actually do a free application, so the counselors have that code, and if we know the student or the student asks and says, I can't afford this, we give them the code and they can apply. There's 4 or 5 colleges that actually do it free, and we can identify students, and we've actually paid for a number of students an application fee for a student. We don't want money to ever be an obstacle for them to apply to college. So
Thank you.
I'm also on the technical school board. Yeah. Legislators always are putting more money into college advisement, and they say students just don't know about technical education. What's your unvarnished opinion about that? What do they know about technical education and what's available to them?
Yes, we talk a lot about MTech quite a bit in our schools, and we have a number of students as juniors or seniors, mostly seniors, that go and do MTech programs. And there's a lot of, tech programs also at UVU, 1-year sort of certification tech programs. So in fact, I visited with a student today and gave him an MTech pamphlet. I had a student and a parent in talking about he's probably not going to go to traditional college, and we talked about some of the different tech programs through MTech and the benefits of doing that. We talk about 1, 2, and 4 quite a bit, which college doesn't mean you have to go and do a 4-year, bachelor degree. You can do a 1-year certification program or a 2-year associate's degree program and not a traditional 4-year program. We try to let students know of the different options, and they're all good. And so MTech is a big part of that discussion that we have with students. In fact, we take field trips there every year as well to MTech with students.
Great. In another vein, how much time are you spending sort of in personal, social, emotional support versus advisement, college? Is there a divide there? Where do you need the most help?
We try to spend our time where it's most needed. I'd say the bulk of our time, it's generally recommended you're going to spend, 45 to 50% on college and career readiness. Most of your time would be spent on academic advisement and building schedules and academic plans for students. I would say we're probably around 20% on sort of emotional and social supports for students. I would guesstimate that. Every school, we do a time analysis study, And so we can look at that study, but it's generally recommended you're spending about 20% in that area.
Do students have enough resources in that area?
It's probably not. There's always a need for more resources. I think that's one of the big blessings of having social workers available to us, because they usually have a little more expertise on some of the different programs that can benefit a student or a family. So we try to involve the social workers whenever we feel like there's a serious social or emotional crisis where they need maybe outside resources. We try to get that social worker involved because they can really help that student and set them up with some of the resources in the community as well. So that's always hard, but we're always looking for, resources. That's one of the things that the schools have done with food. We've created these food pantries where we didn't ever used to have that, but we've seen more of a need with kids just to have their basic, food needs met. And we have a counselor that's really taken that over at Timpview this year, and we've worked with the PTA to get food donations to take care of that basic need that a student may have of hunger.
Great, thanks for everything.
I have a question. I'm sorry, I don't know the name of the School Counselors National Association. What is that called?
ASCA.
Do they have a recommendation on how many counselors to students?
Yeah, it's generally 1 to 350. I think their recommendation is lower. It's like 1 to 250. Yeah.
Is that the same for high schools and elementary and middle schools?
I don't know what the elementary is, but I think high school and middle school, I think, is the same.
Thank you.
A follow-up to that, how do we compare to like Alpine and Nebo?
On the counselor to student ratio?
I don't even know if you would know that.
We used to be like the highest in the state. We're probably in the middle now.
Okay.
But we used to be at Timpview. For a long time, we were, as Monique said, we were 1 to about 500 to 550. We had 4 counselors for about 2,200 students for a few years. So we were number 1, not in a good way, but with the extra counselors we have now, we're I think right in the middle, sort of in that average range. So we're very, very pleased with that. Don't feel like we're overextended nearly as much as we used to be. So thank you.
Well, go ahead.
I would like to ask really quickly, the difference in the numbers between Timpview and Provo on the college application week was almost half of what, Provo's about half of what we saw at Timpview. I'm interested to know just a general feeling that you have why the numbers are so vastly different at both schools.
Well, there's probably a 100 to 150 student population difference as well. So at Timpview, we have a bigger class, so that might reflect some of it, because we'll have more senior students than they would at Provo. So I don't know. Other than that, there is a little bit of a different demographic as well.
Our graduating rate, our graduating cohort last year, I believe, was 435. So our 330 was actually really good. So, and you have to understand, some of our kids don't apply to college because they're undocumented. And one of the things that we did when we started this committee, like I told you, the Familias Unidas, was to educate them. And so our last meeting, we were talking to them about the HB 144, where they can, I don't know if you're familiar with it, but if they've had 3 years of high school with us here in the United States, then they can apply, or they can fill out this HB 144, and they actually get residence tuition, whether they're residents or not. And so that was a big eye-opener for them. So it was great. So we're hoping as the years go by and we educate more of the parents, our numbers will increase, but they weren't bad.
Thank you for that. We might have more at Timpview that apply to multiple colleges as well. I've worked with some students this year applying to 15 or more colleges, so some keep us really busy. they're applying to that many. But really good question.
I got an email from someone who said that Nate was selected as the Outstanding Counselor of the Year by the Health Science Division of the Utah Association for Career and Technical Education. So,
congratulations.
you've been recognized.
Thank you so much, everybody, for coming. We really appreciate it. As a mom who has 3 kids in the system, I really appreciate the counselors, and I have a son who has an IEP. I appreciate when you guys come to the IEPs and give your input and help on those things as well. So thank you again, and thank you for your presentation.
Thank you, Melanie. We'll see you next year. Same
I'd like
time.
to add something if I can. A few years ago, we knew that there was some additional money that we carved out locally to fund additional counselors, and I was a little pushy at that time to ask that the counselors played a very active role in improving graduation rates. The data shows that you did it. Thank you. Let's keep it up, but thank you very much for all of your efforts. It matters a lot.
Appreciate that, Superintendent.
And by the way, Nate, you can thank Denise Abbott for that email.
I'm going to get her. Okay. Anyway, thank you very much.
All right, we have now reached the time we're in our business meeting for public input. If you have not already, over here on my right, your left is a form to fill out if you would like to address the board. You will have 3 minutes, and we'd like you to state your name. As of right now, I've only received one, or you're welcome to go over and fill one out if you'd like to while she's waiting. And then when you're done filling it out, if you'll hand it over here. Just over here. All right. We would like to ask Alexandria Kohler to approach the board, please.
Hi, thank you. I'm Alex Kohler. I'm the student body president at Provo High School. I'm here with members of my student government, support from teachers and community members as well. Ellie is handing out right now a document that has responses from an anonymous survey that we gave to students regarding mental health. And tomorrow or after this meeting, you'll receive an email with a copy of about 500 signatures from members of our community that we put out in a petition over the last few days. So we are concerned that we have been left out of conversations regarding decisions that affect us, specifically the stance on in-person dances and assemblies. We have done research, come up with plans, and consulted other schools on how they have made things like dances and assemblies work. And we have discussed these with our admin, however, it is above our admin. We know that there's a way to make these activities happen safely, and we know that you as a district are the ones who can help us get there. The decisions that you make directly affect us, and while well-intentioned, I'm sure, it's hard to understand where you come from when you are not in our classrooms, when you're not walking in the hallways, and when you're not interacting with the student body at both of our high schools as a whole, and more frequently than we do. I'm speaking to you as a student whose job is to represent students, and we are struggling. And I'm sure you guys notice it in our academic performance and our apathetic actions, and I know that parents see it too. I want to share just a few responses from the survey that we put out with students. One says, it's really hard to want to go to class when you know that nobody notices when you aren't there. Another one says, before the pandemic, I never struggled with mental health. This school year, I've thought about taking my own life more than once. And finally, if this keeps going on, I don't think I want to be here anymore. These are my peers. These are students that our teachers interact with every single day. And these are just a few feelings from a larger student population that we have in Provo. We as a community see COVID numbers. We see the physical toll it takes on people, and we know the economic impact, but we will never be able to quantify the mental toll that it's taking on students. We're at a crucial point in our lives where we need these social interactions because they will shape our futures. All of these bad experiences and feelings will carry with us into adulthood with none of the positive ones that we've expected for our entire childhood. We understand that you've been working tirelessly to get us back to normal, but the part of normal that is most fulfilling are these experiences and interactions with other students. Excuse me for making the assumption that nearly every adult in this room was able to have the dance their senior year or is able to stand with their class in an assembly. I can see the ways these experiences have shaped me throughout high school, as I'm sure you all could as well. These experiences are so important to us, and we are asking you to work with us to make safe dances and assemblies happen with social distancing and any safety protocols you see necessary. We look forward to following up with you and addressing these concerns together. Thank you.
Would Heather Ambler like to come forward?
Hi, my name's Heather Ambler. I am a teacher and a parent in this school district. My children are right there, and I have been teaching at Dixon the past 4 years, but this year I'm an e-school teacher because I had some extreme health complications and I was very nervous to go back to in-person. I also didn't want to send my kids in person, so I'm worried about the possibility of a change in their ability to do home study. I want them to continue to learn at home, but have a connection to their teachers, and to not lose their spots in Spanish dual immersion or at their school choice. I want them to continue to be eligible to get lunch at school, which eSchool doesn't allow for, while their dad has been unemployed for the duration of the coronavirus. And I really appreciate what you're doing and the options that you have given to all of us. And I just want you to keep the options for us. I know that their teachers are not being overburdened by the home study option, at least for my kids, and my teacher friends at Dixon are saying that home study isn't a problem for them either. And maybe it was at first when the expectations were unclear, but the reality for my kids is they go in about once a month and take a test, and then they do everything at home with me. And they're happy. They'd be happier if they were at school. But we just had our second highest week in Utah, case-wise, and I'm not ready to send my kids back to school yet. And I haven't been vaccinated yet, but I'm really hopeful that I will be soon. And I want my kids to be able to go back to their real school. Thank you.
Thank you.
Looks like that's it.
Are there any others that would like to address the board? Okay, seeing none, we're going to close public comment and move on to our business items. That's okay. I'm just going to go back to this. Let's see.
Emery?
Emery, will you talk about policy 4406?
Draft policy 4406 is a rewrite of our general assessment policy, which was 4405. It now includes all components needed for the state and federal government. You'll see it includes what we had previously, the opting out, but it also has how we test for private and homeschool students, as well as other details about testing ethics that need to be required at the district level through policy. There are 3 associated procedures that detail those, and then 2 forms, they're translated into Spanish, are the latter 2 forms you'll see there.
All right, is there a motion to approve policy 4406?
I move that we replace, is that what we need to do? Replace policy 4405 with policy 4406.
Motion made by Board Member Partridge. Is there a second?
I'll second. Second
Made by Board Member Jensen. Any further discussion on the motion? All right, seeing none, all those in favor, please indicate with aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? Nay. Seeing none, the motion passes unanimously. Thank you. Next, we need to approve the 2021 Board of Education meeting schedules. And Keith, do you want to talk about that?
Every year, the board establishes a meeting schedule, and this serves as the foundation of the legal notices that goes out to the public. Sometimes adjustments are made along the way, and that could happen again this year. But this is a schedule that's been developed along the lines of the previous several years. We've added to this list the joint meetings with the City Council and the school board, and also we've added a placeholder for potentially a meeting in July. This past year, we actually had to do 2 meetings in July due to the craziness of COVID. We're hoping that maybe that won't have to happen this next year, but it's there as a placeholder in the event that we need to have that meeting. So it outlines all of the meetings throughout the year as we anticipate them to be at this moment.
Thank you. Is there a motion to approve the 2021 Board of Education meeting schedule?
I move we approve the 2021 Board of Education meeting schedule as discussed in the study session.
Do we need to say on there with the changes that we made?
As discussed, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Great, yeah.
Okay, motion made by Board Member Jensen. Is there a second to the motion?
Second.
Second made by Board Member Nielsen. Is there any further discussion on the motion?
I just want to check, does that include that we're doing the 2022 January meetings on there too?
Yeah, and then I think it was also we were replacing April 13th to April 20th.
Okay.
So,
thank you.
Okay, all those in favor, please indicate with aye.
Aye. Aye.
Those opposed? Seeing none, the motion passes unanimously. All right, next, approve budgets, requests, and adjustments. Stephanie, will you speak to that?
Sure. As we discussed in study session, any adjustments or new budget requests that exceed $50,000 need to come before the board. This is for 2 new grants that have come in since the main budget was approved back in August.
Thank you. Is there a motion to approve the budget requests?
I move we approve the budget request as discussed in the study session.
Motion made by Board Member Bryson. Is there a second to the motion?
I second.
Seconded by Board Member Hales. Is there any further discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all those in favor, will you please indicate by aye?
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, nay. Motion passes unanimously. All right. Okay, we didn't finish discussing this in the study session to discuss the schedule change. Do we need to do a motion first?
Do you want my motion?
I don't know.
I don't know that we're ready.
I don't think we're ready for a motion yet, so let's have some more discussion. So go ahead, Rebecca.
I just have a quick thought on what we were discussing with the information that we got regarding the vaccines and when the teachers, or most of the teachers, would be vaccinated. I feel like maybe I'm more inclined to go with the date of, and the request of starting 5 days a week after SEPs. I like the recommendation to do 5 short days a week, but I also kind of feel like if we want to just have that peace of mind with most of the teachers being vaccinated and maybe use that, like McKay was asking for a mark, what are we looking for? Maybe if that's our mark that we're looking for is that most of our teachers and our staff are vaccinated, that maybe that's a better time to move.
Yeah, I just want to make sure, when are SEPs the same time for secondary and elementary?
No, so I don't know that we can plan for both of them.
Okay, then.
So elementary is the first week of February, right?
And when do we have secondary? And where did that request come from? Was that from elementary?
I think that was elementary teachers.
Elementary teachers?
Yeah, it was during when they interviewed a bunch of the teachers.
Okay, so if we did wait till after elementary SEPs, that would put the change directly in the middle of secondary SEPs. So maybe that's not necessarily, I don't know if that's the right date or not, but I do like the idea of maybe making our mark, what we're watching for, what we're looking for is a majority of our teachers and staff being vaccinated.
So are you proposing, like, the February 8th? I'm just looking on
February 8th would be waiting until after elementary SEPs, but if we don't want to rep secondary SEPs, like I said, I don't know if that's the best date, maybe.
The problem is if we're waiting for vaccinations, it's not necessarily effective until like another month after, and then they need the second one. Like there's just so many dates that I don't know how we can tie it to vaccinations.
Okay.
That's fair. We definitely can, because it's always better later. They're more effective later. So if that's something people want to do, I just don't know that it's.
So, for me, we have another board meeting on the calendar. I don't see a reason to change prior to that board meeting. Certainly, we'd want to give at least a week advance. We were looking at 2 weeks. That would be really good. But I don't see any reason to actually take any action today because of the things we don't know. Coming out, we reset all the numbers, and so everything looks really great. But man, how many times have we been burned by everything looking really great? And we have 1 week in school, and I appreciate all the planning so that we can move quickly, but do we know? Except for what we want. I don't know, I know what we want. We want our kids in school. We want more instructional time. We want our teachers to be safe. These are the things we want, but the things that we don't know after 1 week of instruction after the holiday is troubling to me. And we have another meeting that we could, with the proper notice, make a business meeting for one issue, and we could announce our change.
The thing I see with that, though, is if we're talking today about possibly making a change that's 3 weeks, maybe 4 weeks out, we're not going to know anything closer to that 2 weeks from now. And I've heard from teachers, the more notice, the better. And I also am trying to grasp how adding a few more hours to the school week really affects the safety issues, other than our concern of would we have to move to phase 1. We just had 5 days a week, now we're back to the 4 days a week. But that's always going to be a moving target. So.
And if we decide, okay, we're going to push this until our 9th meeting, the Friday that is 2 weeks after that is the 27th of February. And then it's like, okay, well, why don't we just wait till the end of this term? And we never know where we're going to be in this. Like, this whole thing has been so fluid and it changes so much. It seems like it makes sense right now because we have the end of the term, so we can tell the students who have been doing home study or who haven't been coming to class, okay, you need to make a decision. This is decision time. We're going to go 5 days a week. You need to decide if you're going to go to e-school or you need to decide if you're going to show up, because we're going to be taking attendance on a regular basis. And if you're not there, then you got problems. It seems more natural to do it right now than to do it the 27th of February, at least in my mind.
So I have some concerns about consistency. I don't have a huge problem with any of the I can support any of the things that have been put on the table. I keep coming back to consistency, though. I'm worried that if we do this now, that we're just like the first time we made the change, it was 2 days in for the high schools and then they were back, and that caused so much grief particularly for our teachers. And so I keep thinking about that. On the other hand, I completely understand what Jennifer and Nate were just saying. Like, we cannot keep putting off this decision, and so that's kind of where I don't know if anyone else has any viewpoint on that, but I worry about the consistency for the mental health of our teachers particularly, but also for our families and for our students.
Is it possible to separate an approval from home study to phase change?
We can do whatever the board wants us to do.
What do you
I
mean
think
by
there'll
that?
be more of an approval to change home study than it would be to change phases.
One of the reasons we connected them was because teachers are working, they're spending a portion of their time on Fridays and in the afternoons doing prep for home study. And so one of the concerns that came up initially was if we take away some of that time, then the right thing might be at that point to remove some of the burden of home study as well, so that the prep demands are not being taken from teachers. The prep time is not being taken from teachers for no good reason, if that makes sense.
Like I got a ton of emails today from students, and they were all, well, I can't come to school on Friday because I have a job, or I have dance, or I have all of these things. And if we wait longer, they're going to just get further entrenched in school is a 3-hour thing or a 4-hour thing that I do Monday through Thursday, and then the rest of the time is mine, and I can get a job, I can play with my friends, I can go skiing, and if you do something, you're really imposing on my time, because that was the feeling I was getting from all my emails from students was, if we extended the day, I was really eating into their personal time that they expected to do their things. And I just wonder, the further we go, if we just go further down that road.
So
I was just going to say though, McKay, based on what you're saying is, we've been trying to figure out where this target is this whole year.
Right.
And it's been impossible to know what the future holds. So I have a hard time keep saying, let's postpone this again. I think we need to decide something and go forward with it, even if it's 3 or 4 weeks out, do it now, and knowing that there could be a change. I mean, that's just the nature of this beast right now, that COVID, we don't know what the future could hold. But we do know we want more time for our kids.
Sure, and we do know some of the things we could learn. So within 1 week, we can start again to see trend data within our schools, specifically in stats. On the 26th, that's when I thought we would decide, not in February, but in the 26th.
Oh, 26th.
The 26th of this month. We'll know, we start vaccines tomorrow. Well, how does that go? Does the governor make progress on availability? Are we going to be able to get vaccines? Even if we don't have majority, we'll have an idea. Because that is, all those things are starting to move, but those things aren't moving right now because we're 1 week. And so I was looking at the 26th, and yes, we need to make a decision, but we're caught between 2 districts that one is at 5, one is at 4.
Well, but their elementaries are all at 5.
Their elementaries in Alpine are all at 5.
And at Nebo.
Well, that can be an option for us as well. We could consider moving.
Right, but if we're looking at the consideration of the teachers, they're all teachers. I mean, we have to, if we're looking at, the consideration of the vaccine, separating the two could be.
Well, the one in waiting for, and on the high schools, aside from transportation, which is always the issue, is right now, I mean, who got all the emails that say, if you tell me I don't have a home study thing, I'm going to do it anyway? And parents are going to say, you know what, I've got to stay in this AP class. It's different from taking away the home study option in elementary than it is in the high schools. There's inertia in the high schools to keep supporting. This isn't offered on eSchool. I've got to stay in this class. What are you doing for me? I'm going to stay. I'm just going to be out. Isn't that going to be okay? And the number of deals that are going to be made in a high school with a principal or a teacher is going to be exponentially greater than the elementary schools. So the elementary schools, that makes total sense to me, and treating them differently, that seems fine.
But I thought changing the elementary schools different from the high schools, 5 days versus 4 days, is like logistically very hard to do because of.
That's if we chose to have one on a long day and the other on short day,
Extended
but all
hours,
week.
they've gotta be the same.
But if they're all the short day and one goes 4 of those days and one goes 5, then that should work.
Yeah, from a transportation standpoint, as long as the bell schedule isn't adjusted on those 4 days, transportation can run. Child nutrition can adjust pretty easily. Facilities can probably adjust, but they may need a little bit of notice in order to figure out how they're gonna handle the 2 different schedules. Just from operations side, I think you could do it.
I just want to make one more comment. We're saying there's a lot of things we don't know, and there's not. That's certainly true. There's plenty of things we don't know, but I think we have been in this long enough that there really are some things we do know at this point. We do know that our engagement is awful. We know that our students' grades this year compared to last year are a lot lower. We know that the kids who came in this year at the beginning of year were way less prepared than what they were last year. So there are some things that we do know, and those are the things that make me feel compelled to move sooner than later. I just suggested vaccines as maybe a mark we're looking for, but I'm certainly not opposed to the 25th that Keith recommended to us earlier. That's 2 weeks from now. And maybe the solution is to jump in because we just may never know what our target ever is.
Alex, what's our staffing in the elementary schools? Are we on the edge? I mean, do we have a lot of principals standing in the classrooms, or what's going on? I mean, we just came out of the holidays, so we should be pretty good again this week, but what were we just prior to the holidays?
Yeah, thank you. Right now, most of our cases that are active are with our students, not the staff members right now. So right now we're in a good place with our staff.
So that added day for elementary schools would not be changing the home study, which they've been working on anyway in the elementaries more aggressively.
No, it wouldn't change anything at this point.
So it's just adding that day with the transportation. So that makes sense to me. So in considering them a little bit different.
Sorry, to go along with the Fridays with elementary, we've been doing some professional development for them on those days. How is that going to affect them?
It would impact that quite a bit. It'll change because that time wouldn't be available for teachers.
Okay.
So we started asking these questions back in November about, are we at the right balance of in-school instruction time, having enough preparation time for our teachers? I get emails from families every once in a while that say, why aren't we just in phase 3? Why aren't we just on the regular schedule? And my answer, from my perception, is because we need to make sure our teachers have enough preparation time. The vaccine is a newer development. We weren't sure at the time in November when that was going to be happening. So as wonderful as it is that it is coming right now, this conversation started independently as what are we doing to best serve our students while also keeping safety top of mind. So I think we need to determine where is that right balance right now for in-school instruction time. Are we good with where we're at, keeping in mind all these other concerns that we have of student engagement? Or is it time to have more in-school instruction time? And then once we determine that, then we can decide the timing of if we're making a change. Are we ready to do that? When?
Do we know, we probably don't know this might be for Todd, but do we know that the 2 surrounding districts have significantly better attendance and grades and participation than us? Like, if we're going to move to it, I think I can get behind that. But if they're having the same issues, I don't know why we would move, because if that's our reason for moving.
That's a good question. I can find out that information tomorrow.
Thank you.
In terms of hours they've had FaceTime though, those students all started out at 5 days a week and then went to a hybrid model and then returned back to 5 days at Nebo, and they're now at 4 days a week in Alpine. So they've had a lot more time face-to-face overall than our students have since the beginning of school.
So, yeah, so I guess my question would be, has that helped with their, like, all the things we're struggling with that Rebecca said, here's the things we do know, is our attendance is poor. We can't find, the students, and our failure rate has doubled in some schools, which I'm very concerned about. I would just be curious, and again, I don't think we need to compare ourselves to everybody all the time, but I am curious to know if we have more of that than they do, because if that's the case, we definitely need to start moving in another direction. But if they have the same failure rates and they're still having the same issues, then I want to rethink that.
I think the big challenge right now is it's an awkward time to try to gather that data. We're at an end of a semester, and I believe that maybe in Alpine they're at the very beginning of a semester. They may have that information gathered. We'll do what we can, but being at the end of a semester right now, we would know better probably in about 10 days where we are, but right now we're entering the period where teachers are giving final exams and those kinds of things.
Completely understandable, thank you.
Yeah.
So I think the other thing, I mean, am I wrong in assuming that longer hours and trying to figure out transportation and the lunches is just undoable, right?
Transportation is doable if we do it all across the system.
All across the system, but with lunches, I mean, 4 lunches.
Lunches is going to be really hard because of the social distancing requirement that we have.
They're doing three lunches at Centennial Middle School right now, but they also have half the population that they do at Timpview. Yeah. And they're having to work things out. I just know from what my daughter tells me, and I've gone and talked to Kyle too. So
I think the challenge is with the 3 lunches, and Todd, you can correct me if I'm wrong, is not so much about child nutrition meeting those 3 lunch needs, it's the whole entire scheduling at the high schools that would have to change around those 3 lunches.
You'll have several classes, periods throughout the day that are impacted by students maybe leaving at the beginning or coming in after the beginning of the period, has maybe a half an hour deep into the period because they're coming from lunch, and then maybe leaving at the end. So it actually kind of flies in the face of more meaningful instructional time because of those disruptions.
I would have to say that when kids have gone back to school and they've had more time and more face-to-face, been around those kids that they used to not see every other day, I think their morale went up, and I think the morale of the school went up. I think it's something that we really have to take into consideration, that having that other day is just going to help with all of their mental health. It's going to help with the morale of everything as well. And if we keep postponing that, who knows what's going to happen. But I think we should make a decision to move forward with this, in my opinion.
I've been concerned, and this is definitely not everybody, but there are plenty of students out there or families who, with the Fridays off, treat it as a 3-day weekend, and instead of doing the online portion, I know secondary is a little different because they just need to meet certain requirements for their classes, but with elementary, the teachers are working to assign, and some of the teachers I've talked to, like a 5th grade teacher I talked to, she said probably about 6 out of her 22 students actually do any of the assignments that she posts for the Fridays. And one of our jobs is to educate our students. That's our primary job, and I think having school on Fridays would help to send the message that that's important to us, and we want it to be important to our students, and we're here to help them and then give them that face-to-face time and increase that instruction time.
We will implement any program the board wants to give us to do.
I really do think that though, if we do 5 days, I really do want to emphasize that we need an attendance policy back again, because we can add more days, but that still doesn't necessarily get kids in school unless we make them accountable for it. I feel like we need to really emphasize that if we're going to do 5 days.
this table over here is very attentive to these kinds of comments.
Any comments on that? I mean, that you're changing the incentives about how you decide, you make healthcare decisions then for your family. You're incentivizing them one way or another with changing the attendance policy. You're incentivizing, and yeah, we don't know, but the public doesn't know either, except for, we're having our very worst weeks. And yes, we're hearing good news, but 30% testing rate in our community versus 3 in Oregon. Just as many deaths with 1 million less people in our state.
McKay, I know yes, the numbers are high. I can't argue with that. But could we also say that school is the safest place for these kids?
Yes. Absolutely for the kids. They're absolutely. So, I mean, I think that we would have, universal support if you wanted to vote on elementary first on the elementary schedule, moving to 5 days. I think that because, I mean, that's those teachers are exposed to a group of students. It's a cohort. It makes sense. It doesn't feel like it's a greater risk in any sense to those teachers for another day. And moving in that direction, it seems like we have all the information that we need. But it's always been a challenge with secondary and elementary sort of talking them together, and they're just different animals, and they impact each other in such weird ways. We're making a decision over lunch and we have to, because it's the reality of one of our most expensive things in transportation. But is there consideration of doing the elementary first, or is it all together?
I don't know that our COVID numbers improved when we went from phase 1. I mean, it's kind of too short, but it hasn't been. We were terrible in phase 1. Our numbers were terrible. We had like 70 kids at Timpview at one point.
Yeah, we did.
And so I don't know if I see a huge benefit. The kids will still be in the same classes with the same kids that they've been in forever. They'll be with the same teachers. It's just one extra day for an extra hour. I just don't see the benefit of waiting an extra couple weeks.
Absolutely. It's going to be the same. It's probably our COVID numbers for students, if they're in school, will probably go down.
Well, and I think we have to be adaptable, make a change, knowing that there is a possibility it could happen. Like Gina brought forth that, 2 days into phase 2, we had to go back to phase 1. It was not ideal at all. But that was what we decided on the safety committee under the direction of the health department, and we will continue to do that under the direction of the health department. But I think we need to decide how we want the schools to run now, instead of.
Especially if we're going to be testing almost 60% of our students. I mean, we're going to know the caseloads in our schools really pretty quick with all that testing.
It was encouraging to hear that 300 kids were tested at Timpview. Just under 300 were tested, and not one was positive. That's good. I mean, that shows that they care enough about what they're doing in their activities that they want those to continue.
Sure. Alpine tested 20,000. They had 20 in 20,000. So
that's great.
So that's consistent. So it's students, but I guess I don't know the faculty. I mean, I know that we're missing some people in this room. Normally are here. I don't know the faculty, and again, I do not doubt that we'll ever have to go back to phase 1 for students. It's, do we have enough lunch people? And we're tracking the student numbers really, really closely, and I just don't have a sense. Is there anybody can help me have a sense of where our faculty is?
So
Besides,
we do look at that every day in the safety committee. Jason, do you have those numbers available for the like child nutrition, transportation, district office folks, like where we're at today?
We identified as operational, essentially identified staff, child nutrition, transportation, custodial, technology, and there's a few others in the district that would make up the essential staff. We have
So far, child nutrition seems to have a rotating number around 5 or 6 out due to COVID. And then she tends to have a handful of folks that are out for other reasons, medical reasons or family emergencies. She's done a pretty good job of handling that. Even people like myself have gone out and helped when we need it. So we've been able to backfill some of that. The biggest piece of it, facilities as well. He's managing it pretty well. He can be down quite a few staff members before it really starts impacting facilities. The biggest piece is transportation, because once you're out about 6 drivers, you start running into issues as to whether or not you can run routes. And if we were short beyond that, they have some staff members that can drive. The challenge there is you have to have a school bus CDL, not just a regular CDL, so it's hard to get people to sub. They can get their office people in there and handle about 6 or 7 drivers. But then that's where you would run into problems. You may have to cancel a route if you're down 1 driver, or 2 routes if you're down a couple of drivers, and that would just be dependent upon what routes those drivers have. But knock on wood, we've kind of had this just kind of level rotating amount of people out in those areas, and it seems to be staying fairly consistent. And hopefully I didn't just jinx it.
Knock, knock.
So, I mean, I'm also looking for the compromise here, so, because that's our job. We have to move forward and do things.
I just worry that, I know that the high school kids and the middle school kids would benefit from having more time too. So I think, I hesitate to separate the two right now.
So what's the proposal?
Could we talk about them separately, and then we vote? We might end up in the same place with both of them, no?
Yeah, go for it.
I mean,
yeah.
What were you saying, McKay?
Well, I mean, is anyone, so what did it mean, with the emails going forward? I'm sorry, I'm reading so many emails. When we had the proposition that we were going to begin the 29th, does that mean the first week of 5 days would be February 1st? Is that right? Or
we originally said the 25th.
The 25th of January,
25th?
which is a Monday.
But yeah, the dates.
That was the original
So
proposal.
the first
but it could be any
Friday
day you
to be
choose.
effective would be the 29th.
Yeah, the first Friday back would be the 29th. Which would give teachers, as of today, almost
2 weeks.
2 weeks.
Almost 2 weeks. Or we could choose February 1st, beginning of a month. Alex, would you be able to speak? So we had heard from a teacher. I know she represented more than just herself, but the thought of the SEPs. Is the prep time for the SEP in the weeks before? Is it during the week? I mean, if we were to start the 25th versus the 1st versus the 8th, how much does that affect the elementary teachers? Adding it on a Friday in that time frame.
Just let me clarify, you're saying if we added that start of the 5-day week on the week of SEP conferences, is that what you're asking for?
Yeah, just doing it the 25th where they've got like a week and a little bit before SEPs, or the 1st where they have SEPs later that week versus the 8th where it's after SEPs. How much does that affect?
It takes some planning to be able to put all of that information together for parents, and anytime teachers have that opportunity to have that planning time, they're going to be appreciative. But again, I think the teachers will do whatever you need them to do. If you started the week after SEPs or even the week before SEPs, I think they'll be amicable either way. Principals will work with them to just make sure that there's less other responsibilities on their plate, so that they would be freed up like in the afternoons during their prep time to be able to allow them to be able to get their information and stuff in. And if we're going to make that decision, I would say sooner than later, so teachers can plan accordingly.
So they can start planning
if
now.
they were going to do something along those lines.
Thank you.
Might ask another silly question. Are we planning 4 days a week next week with the holiday?
Yes.
We're
Yeah.
doing 4 days
we're
a week
spending-
anyway.
No, it's
Only be 3.
Monday through Thursday.
Tuesday through
Well,
Thursday.
but
'cause
Tuesday
of-
through Thursday, because Monday's a holiday. Yeah.
So not Friday on that.
No Friday. Mm-hmm. Is that it?
McKay, you're saying compromise would be to start with elementary and then go to high school. I'm wondering if you can tell me what's the benefit in waiting with the high schools?
The mental health of the teachers.
But there's also the mental health of the students too. I mean, I know there's no good, and I agree, the mental health of the teachers has to be, this is just trying to weigh the balance of active here, what is best in all, and what we're seeing is that the best, in my opinion, the best place for kids is in the school. That's my opinion.
And hopefully with some of the concessions we would make of trying to modify home study, trying to, well, in my opinion, have a little bit more robust attendance policy, which I know encourages some people to be at school that we don't want, but I feel like we can modify it and make it still lenient for illness and whatnot. But I don't know, I feel like we can help mitigate the mental health issues for the teachers.
And I agree with the mental health of the teachers, that we have to have a guarantee that we're going to help them with this transition out of home study somehow. That we start treating the kids as kids who might be sick, and how, if my own daughter, at the first of the year, she was out of school for about 10 days because she hadn't, her appendix ruptured. I had to go in and talk to the teachers. I had to deal with it in a different way. There was no home study for me on that one. I think if we deal with things like that, like that they're sick, that it's something that they did prior. It's what we go back to what we used to do. That's in the policy. What's the policy number? Or I don't know what it's called.
It's called homebound instruction. I don't remember the number.
It was 3,000, wasn't it?
I'm not sure, but anyway,
I
I just need to make sure that we're very aware that the teachers are going to get that help to help transition them out of the home study into more of the homebound, where the kids are sick. I want to make sure that that's very present if we decide to go this direction too.
And hiring those extra teachers too, I think, is a good way to help.
So I'm sitting in a bit of an objective point of view here, and I think the question was asked, why maybe separate elementary from secondary? I think my read on it is that the board feels much more comfortable making this movement to elementary right now than they do secondary. So separating them at least gives some direction as to where you want to go with elementary, and then secondary you can still come back and discuss further. I don't have a vote, so I'm just telling you what I'm seeing.
I would agree with that. I mean, the previous phase change happened with the elementary schools first, and then the secondary schools.
But in hindsight, and I know, we're all smarter now than when we were back in July, I would have voted differently than I voted then. I honestly, I mean, Nate's nodding his head. I worry that we keep postponing. There's always a reason to postpone, in my opinion. And so I think we should just move forward.
Well,
Should we just vote for the elementary school, be done with that one, because that one seems to have consensus, and then throw that next one out and fight to the death?
Well, I would like to make a motion then. I move that we transition our elementary schools to 5 days a week with early outs. And I'm going to throw out a date that we can maybe modify, starting January 25th.
Motion made by Board Member Partridge. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Board Member Nielsen. Is there any further discussion on the motion?
Is the 25th the right date?
25th would be in 2 weeks.
That's Monday the 25th.
Monday the 25th.
Monday the 25th, 2 weeks from yesterday.
So Friday would be their first one, would be the 29th, so yep.
Yeah. So we would have the rest of this week. We would have next week that's a 3-day in-school week. And then it would start the next week on the 25th. Correct.
So the first Friday would be the January 29th.
Yep.
Any further discussion? All right, all those in favor, manifest, all right, go by aye.
Aye.
All those opposed?
Nay.
All right, the motion passes 6-1. All right. All right, let's go ahead and talk about secondary then. So you guys know my feelings, so convince me otherwise. I'm just.
My one biggest worry is the burden on the teachers. I'm not worried about the kids being in school more. They need that. We know the schools aren't super spreaders. We know the engagement is down, and I believe that will help it. So my one biggest concern is for the teachers in the secondary level. They have 200 students apiece versus 25 in elementary. And the home study kids, like we've mentioned before, I feel like the vibe I'm getting is not as much of the problem as is just the kids who just aren't showing up and who are just expecting to get their stuff, their instruction online. Which is why I kind of feel so strongly about we need to put back in some kind of attendance policy, because I feel like people don't feel accountable. They feel like they can just not show up to school and it doesn't hurt them in any way, but it is hurting our teachers. Because that load that's on them for having to work with those kids is where I feel like the biggest burden is coming from. So
if we're looking at COVID, I think anything COVID related, or if they're, like my daughter who's appendix burst, if it's medically related, I think there's going to be some leniency there.
Right, I feel like we can put an attendance policy back in that's lenient for medical issues, and we don't have to incentivize sick kids coming to school. We can still say, if your child is sick, please keep them home, but just please call and let us know. And then if we're transitioning to outside help for kids who are not at school for longer amounts of time, then people who are staying home casually will have to understand that they're not going to be able to put that burden on their teachers, that burden has to be on them, that they're the ones who have to come and get the work and make it up and kind of like it's always been, really, except for this year.
Right, coordinate with the counselor, coordinate with the principal, and then at that point the school will help out. Because it's a legitimate, provable absence for a justifiable cause.
Right. So I say I'm in favor of 5 days for the high school as well. It would obviously take a lot of modifying in certain areas, and so maybe the target date for secondaries is maybe just a week or two later, so we have a little bit more time to work out those details. Maybe the 25th is good and we just put the pedal to the metal and do it. But I think with enough modification of the system and some realigning of our expectations for what we are expecting from our students and our teachers, then I think it's doable, and I think it's the way we need to go. We need our kids in school.
Todd, we're talking about secondary. You want to weigh in? I mean, there's evident we're not making good decisions here. We're missing a day, sort of we have a really short week on a holiday. We're going to have another short week coming up in February. We don't want to, we'll want to have at least 4 days on that holiday weekend. So does a week make a difference? So I would, if I was going to make a motion now, I would say we're going to start the high schools, the same program on the 1st. That gives us, we can gather the same data, and like they said, we can always change. But, so is there any value to waiting a week? If the choice is, we're going to start 5 days, we're going to start it, we're going to go on the 29th, or we're going to go on February 5th, will be our first Friday. What's the best decision for principals, teachers, because we're going to go to 5 days?
I think that's a good question. I think it's a question of what is going to be achieved in the extra time. What will be needed at the school? What will teachers need to be doing? And is that sufficient time to make the change? And that's a question I can ask the schools themselves. My personal position would be to be really thoughtful and make a transition and do it well than to rush a judgment and do it half as well as we may be able to. The challenge, I think, well, there's a couple of things that have been rattling around in my head, and it may not be received extremely well, but I feel like I should share some things. And it goes back to that, I think it was Board Member Nelson's comment, we have learned some things in the last several months. You know, first and foremost, I think we need to start from the premise that right now we have a 7-day average of over 30% positivity rate. And what I understand that to mean is that there is so much virus in the community, it's almost impossible to do the contact tracing to say this is the exact source, which suggests that we don't know where kids and others are contracting the virus, and it puts into question whether or not schools are as safe as we may think they are. I want to believe they are. I want to believe we have the strategies in place to do so, but there's evidence coming out of, I think, what is almost a near perfect study in Salt Lake County, where you had one district that was fully online and is still online. And they did the data run to look at what is the infection rate for students in that district that's been fully online from day one compared to all the other surrounding districts that have not. They've been in person. And I think it was telling, and I just can't get my mind off this thought, that for elementary students, the infection rate was almost identical. There was no difference between whether we were in person or online, and it was really low. There was no difference in the infection rate for middle school students, whether we were in person or online. But the infection rate for high school was double the average. There was a difference between being online and in person. I couple that with the most recent data from the State Department of Health that looked at the last real big surge we had there during the holiday period, where we had this break, we came back, and there was this huge surge. And the data was pretty clear that that surge was driven by high school age students. So those are things that I think we don't want to lose sight of it. Does that mean we can't make a change? Absolutely not. But I think it's something we need to remember. I fear that we're getting to the point of pandemic fatigue. Everybody is so tired of this, and we want to change. We want to get back to normal. We want our students to have a normal experience. We want them to be able to go to dances and have assemblies. We all want that. But yet we are still in a real difficult point. And I think the next couple of weeks are going to be really telling. They're going to be really telling for our community of those that may get sick and those who may not. I think it's also telling that, there's this, I think, a false notion that, well, if kids get sick, it's not that serious. And I think we're learning more and more about that currently. I think it's indicative that the State Athletic Association now has provided guidance as of this week to all of our schools to say if you have an athlete that it becomes positive, whether they're symptomatic, asymptomatic, they're recommending that they have a cardiac assessment before they return to play. So the situation, I think, is still a serious situation for us to consider. Can we make a change and do it safely and do it well? I believe we can. Being really thoughtful about what that looks like, I think, is really important. Is there a distinction between elementary, middle, and high? Yes, I believe there is, based off what we've learned. Is the right decision for the board to move secondary high schools into remain in a 4-day or push into a 5-day? I think I think it's important to be prepared if we move, whatever direction we go, we got to be prepared that we may have to move back to a phase 1 at some point.
So, one Friday.
I just wanted to ask, though, is there a way we could separate high school and middle school?
Certainly we can find a way to do that, yes.
And then I'm just throwing out ideas here. I'm not saying that that's what I want. I'm just looking at options. Because we never had to take middle schools down to phase 1. They've been in phase 2 for a lot longer than our high schools have. That's true.
It's true. We've never really crossed the line with middle school.
We did lose an entire admin team, and
we did lose an admin team.
We're certain, I mean, the only thing we can count on is something is going to change. If we put in an extra week of waiting to see, as far as saying secondary will start on February 1st versus the 25th. If we say the 25th, but we get to the meeting on the 20, the Wednesday before that, and go, hey, wait a minute, our teachers are going to be mad at us.
Yep.
Yeah, it gets back to that consistency and stability piece, right? And if the distinction is between a week or 2 weeks, right, to move sooner than later, I mean, if it means that we can do it better by waiting, allowing the vaccine to take greater hold, have a better understanding of what this most recent surge may or may not do, what is lost by waiting a week or two? I mean, I won't carry this out, but a week or two, I think it's a marginal change in learning.
Right. I mean, so I didn't say anything about the feeling sort of throughout the state, and the people who are defending Salt Lake, who haven't been in school at all, obviously, is that when they pull, I mean, so they're beginning to, they have special ed and they have certain students, so they do assessments, and they're trying to show where our students aren't any farther behind. And the same feeling, the anecdotal feeling between sort of government folks is that everybody who did it different, whether you in Piute County and you were in the same, you were in school, for some reason you weren't any different.
That's right.
That's the feeling, but that's all anecdotal at this point, because people don't like to share bad data on that part. But I mean, we do need to, we're gonna start moving at some point. So it's that, if there's not a value to waiting a 1 week for, I guess that's what I need to assess. Is there a value to waiting 1 week for secondary?
Based on the emails I've gotten from the secondary teachers, I feel there's some value in maybe giving at least another week or two for the teacher preparation part of it.
Well, I would hope it would allow teachers to then, if they knew we were going to do that, they could make I know that we have such great teachers who want to hold on to their students and don't want to let them go. I think we're going to need to help them to do that, because it needs to be done, in my opinion. And maybe that extra time will give them time to figure out how they can best support those students, even if they don't have them in a home study or home, whatever it is. Perhaps that will give them some more time to figure that out.
Absolutely.
And we're talking about 2 different changes, the home study change and then phase change. I would feel more comfortable having the home study be implemented and let that take effect before we make any phase change to the high schools. Because then the teachers will know what their duties actually are in the next phase.
Right, but I think we need to make that decision of when that's going to happen so that they can start working on it now. If we don't have that date set, it's not going to, we need to have an end date.
We need to make that.
Then it needs to be term 3.
At the semester turn anyway. Even if we are waiting a long time to make the phase change, we need to make that home study change now with the semester break that's happening. So I think that's going to happen no matter, right?
And I would suggest you could make a change with attendance separate from the others as well. You could make a change with home study and make a change with attendance, and then you can make a change with instructional time.
I feel comfortable doing 3 different changes.
Keith, is the home study such that we have to vote on that, or is that because it's policy you guys are taking care of it and we don't have to have a formal vote on that?
Well, it was mixed in with the others, so I think just so we're clear that I would like some type of formal action that says that we can make adjustments to pare down home study. Again, we're not trying to eliminate it, we're trying to moderate it.
Can we take regular attendance when we only have 4 days a week? Or are we still subject to our exemption?
It would have to be participation. I don't think we can do attendance in a meaningful way that the state will buy that.
But
as
could we make a motion that when we go to phase 5 days a week, then to move to the new attendance policy?
Absolutely.
Whatever that is?
Yep. We're prepared to do that.
Can I ask, when we make the change, I'm a little worried we're going to make it the same week as SEPs. I don't have a daughter, my daughter's in elementary school. Is that going to, how much burden will that place? I don't know the preparation that goes into that. Is that going to be a big deal?
Teachers do prepare for those conferences. And this past fall when we did them, teachers did them virtually, and they're intending to do that again February 10th and 11th.
And so does that take more preparation, or?
You know, it varies by the teacher. I mean, you're asking them to prepare for something and then prepare for another on top of that as well. Is it impossible? No, but
okay.
I think it's
Thank
just
you.
being mindful of change is change, and there's burden with change.
Thank you.
Motion?
Yeah, does somebody want to make a motion?
Who wants to make the first bid?
Well, should we go ahead and talk about the home study then, since that one seemed to be the next?
Low-hanging fruit, the home
Yeah.
study,
Yeah, let's
that
go for
motion?
home study.
This is what I know about the home study. Whatever we decide the home study is not what it ends up being. That's for sure. Our teachers want to take care of their students. Their students are their neighbors. They're the little brother of the other student that they had, that they went to college, especially in our secondary. The home study is never what we tell teachers it is. It's something else. They just want to take care of it. If we're changing expectations, we can say, look, yeah, we expect, people that are going to be out a long time to do something different. I think it's almost the way we have just not been able to manage that at all.
So I don't think I need a motion if you just want to say to the senior administration, get to work on reducing the impact of home study. If you want to tell us that, we can easily take that away.
I would agree with that. I think I don't think we can move to 5 days without that.
Sure.
And I think it should just be restricted to kids who, they have a family member who's sick, or, in a tough situation, or they're sick, or they've been quarantined. And none of this, I don't feel comfortable, but I don't really have a reason. We just need to whittle down that number, I think.
But can I remind you that we can't enforce that unless there's an attendance policy? Right?
Yeah, and that's
So
my
where
problem. That's why I want to
we get into this
switch.
conundrum again, because we can say we're done with home study, but we're still going to have kids casually missing school because they don't have to be accountable for it.
So I think I can say I've heard it loud and clear. We're good.
We can work this out because, it's just been strange. Kids BYU kids that go with their parents on study abroad and are gone for 3 months, we have worked it out in some strange way,
I think we just need to go back to beforehand and working things out. But
Well, and I know some of the teachers, it's not about the home study students, it's about the ones who are quarantining or things like that. So just supporting them with, helping them with the cameras or other things they can do to ease that burden that they have.
We're an organization made up of humans, and we are empowering them to make human decisions, and we're informing them to make better human decisions instead of working themselves to death and then saying, I can't do something else. And I think that is something that's something the senior administration can help with.
We can handle this.
Empower, I like
Great.
that.
Thank you. It's good to have your support and to hear the discussion. but now we can move forward.
Okay. I'll make the motion that, secondary begin 5 days instruction on the first week of February, so that would be the first. But, there'd probably be enough votes if somebody wants to outbid me by a week.
Is there a motion? The motion is made by Board Member Jensen. Is there a second?
I second that.
Second by Board Member Partridge. Is there any further discussion on the motion?
I think the date needs to be moved back to the third quarter.
Okay, so you're in favor of the third quarter. I actually would be okay going with waiting 1 week. I would prefer the 25th, but I would be okay with the first.
Off the top of your head, does anyone know when the third quarter starts?
Well, this is the third quarter.
No.
Isn't it?
End of third quarter. Sorry, I'm sorry.
Beginning of the fourth quarter. Sorry.
Sorry. Yes. End of third quarter. Beginning of fourth quarter.
Which might be end of March, around spring break.
Probably late March, early April.
Too far away.
Yep.
I mean, I see the way the wind's blowing, so I'm going to vote for McKay's. So.
Well, we have a motion and a second. Can we vote?
Is there any further discussion on the motion? All right, seeing none, all those in favor? Aye?
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed?
Aye.
Nay.
So the motion passes 5-2. Okay, all right, moving on. Is there anything else we need to discuss?
I need to say one thing.
Go ahead.
Alexandria, I have your number. I'm going to call you tomorrow. Okay, I want to have a meeting with you folks to see what we can explore about what you mentioned. Thank you. I'm sorry, Dana.
No, that's totally fine.
I know they're getting ready to leave.
All right. Is there a motion to approve the consent calendar?
I move we approve the consent calendar.
Motion made by Board Member Nielsen. Is there a second?
I second.
Second by Board Member Hales. Is there any discussion on the consent calendar? See none, those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? Nay. Seeing none, it passes unanimously. All right, our board member report, and before I'm going to turn it over to you, McKay, I just want to say thank you so much for all your hard work for the USBA. I thought for having to deal with it being online and trying to figure out to take something that's so huge and to make it actually really worthwhile, and I thought it was really good.
Well,
so
thanks.
Thank you so much for all your hard work with that.
I appreciate that. We wanted to do the best we could, and no one has seemed to mind the Utah County bent with Coach Sataki and United Way of Utah County, and there was a definite Provo tint to it, and certainly even Vern Henshaw talking. So Utah County wins, I guess. With the legislative, I'll forward you an email with the governor's proposed budget. I thought the most important, one of the best answers that Senator Milner gave in the legislative session was how close is the governor and the legislature. I'll remind you that the legislature often tries to teach the governor a lesson on who's in charge of the money by really attacking his budget, but I didn't hear that from Senator Milner. You'll hear a couple of things. They're going to change the WPU as far as add-ons. So not just increase, but they want to have add-ons. Some of those would be students at risk for academic failure. That means students that are English language learners and students that are economically disadvantaged. That means that there's a lot of students in Provo that would qualify in those two programs. It would be additional funds, and so that's an interesting thing. There is a great deal of interest in addressing the basic rate of taxes. That means that some of if we're going to be ending up in a little bit of use it or lose it. because they're going to start using the basic rate. We won't lose it all together, but it will go towards those academic failure. There's also going to be an add-on for rural schools. So instead of being in the middle, we could be, if we don't use some of our levies, we might lose it to rural schools. We'll be building rural schools. So that's of interest in some of the things we'll talk about in February. I'll also mention that with the new board president and vice president, there's a vice president and president workshop the same day as Day on the Hill. So online Zoom, 9 o'clock on the 19th, February 19th. And so that is there for you two and the superintendent to join in with. And that is the end of my report, because we're after 9 o'clock. Good heavens. What are we doing?
I'm next. Student travel. I have approved one Provo High School baseball trip to St. George. It's an overnight trip, and that's contingent upon conditions being right at that time to be able to run that trip safely. And I've already spoken with the athletic director about it, so I think we're in good shape on that. And other miscellaneous items, just thank you to Stephanie for organizing the board succession and the oath of office and all those kinds of things. I cannot tell you folks what a help Stephanie is in fulfilling her roles. So thank you. That's it for me.
All right, thank you. Thank you all for coming here, and thank you to our two new board members. We appreciate you and your comments, and glad that you're here. So, is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
All right, we are adjourned. Thank you.
Alexandria, can you come here for a sec?